Oh, wait a minute. That's the null pointer. If fixed string and the first character matches. So that never happens. Therefore, looking for more fixed string is never set. Therefore, expected is never fixed string. No fixed string. The value isn't used. Yep. So it should pass nothing, just a token offset. I think that should work. The problem is that when the end of file is reached here, there is a comment left. The comment is not added. If the comment was added, it would say something like, where's the last comment? Add input token C++ comment with the value. Yeah, this. still doesn't add anything. Here's the end of file. This is the gap is clearly this, and then we call the process gap, and that is not doing anything. Why? No, this thing has state. I need to pass the end offset. Yay. So end of file, we call process gap, and it detects that we jumped from an offset of 193 to 208, meaning that we get this extra text, which exists of one white space added here, and then a C++ comment, which includes the terminator of the C++ comment, which is a new line. So all of that is C++ comment. Okay. So it completely processed this one. Yeah, sorry, I worked, in case anyone ever sees this that watched the previous stream, I worked on the code off stream. So the problem that existed at the end of that stream no longer exists. Maybe I should show that though. So at the end of previous stream, the problem was that at the moment we reached the int here, the gap is from the last thing that was added, which was the end of the include, till the end. So this is the whole gap. And that gap includes not just white space and comments, but also the define. And the define was thus not processed. So you see that actually you don't see it. I'm getting now a callback at the D of the declare. So the gap ends here to define space. That callback is done as a result of that this is being called. Macro define is called back with the location of the macro name itself. So this. But yeah, then I call process gap with hashtag. which then adds the hashtag. I mean, it adds the white space and the C++ comment and another white space, and then it adds the hashtag. And then we call again process gap, but now with define, which is immediately connected to the hashtag. So the next thing that is added is the directive define. And then we get the white space again. And then we are at that at the macro name to declare. So all of this is processed inside that callback function that we found to define. Now I have another one, which is I think just -2. This one also uses the macro. Here it was commented out. So now at the moment we find the return, we find that the gap is then starting from this semicolon. So this is the gap, and the gap contains the declare because the declare was not detected. So if I go on this, you see that. So it says the gap contains non-white space at the D of declare. So just at this point here, and then that follows. And the reason is that we never got notified that that we ran into the declare itself. And that is at the moment that we find the return. So what I need to add now is macro invocations. I'm not sure how they call that, but it's probably something to do with the preprocessor callbacks. I'm just going to edit this, jump to there. So I'm looking for a virtual function that is called when we encounter a macro. Well, I think a directive is something else. File not found. Inclusion directive, that's an include. Entered submodule, left submodule. Module input, end of main file. Actually, I think I might have to call that manually. I'm not sure. Let me distract myself and add end of main file. See if it is being called. So I want to add that to this thing if it is not already there. It is there. Oh, do you see? Though it's not called because I'm not doing anything with it. Slightly weird though. Why would I have to do that manually? Let's see if we can Google this and find it. Oops, yep, I don't watch a movie. This can go. Let me just Google this. Yeah, there is no documentation, right? There is only Doxygen, which is useless. Callback invoked when yeah, but it isn't. That's the whole problem. pp trace output format. Interesting. Let's just print it. This is also no documentation. This only says that pp trace is printing it, but I don't even know what that is. Standalone tool, okay. Could look at the source code of pp trace and then see if that is explicitly calling it. Suppose so. I'm not going to do that. The rest are just duplicates, I bet. Yep, the same thing. It is all the same shit. Yeah, this is using it. Is it? Where is this come from? Code browser. There is of course a different way. I can just search all the source code of clang itself. See if it is calling that function somewhere. It's the same shit again. Nothing. Doxygen, the most useless thing on earth. Nobody writes the actual documentation for it. Yeah, why would you do that? It's not end of main, of course. It's the end of the main file. So we're really at the end of the file, not at the end of main. It gives me the feeling that it should be called automatically. That is, I don't see anyone calling it, but I see a lot of people using it. So again about pp-trace. Read the docs as if there is anything documented. Pp-trace again in Chinese. Yep, nothing. Well, in that case, let's see where it is being called then. At most there. Void. Callbacks. Okay, this is where it is actually called, I think. And that's the only place. I'm gonna ignore the first and second. Can't be it. Yep, so that turns it into who is calling end of source file. Was that a virtual function? Surely it wasn't. It was source file. It's not a virtual function. What the hell? not a virtual function. Why am I defining it with a final here? Diagnostics consumer. Diagnostics consumer has its own end of file, end of source file apparently. Note that the diagnostics may be emitted outside of the processing of a source file, for example during the parsing of command line options. However, diagnostics with source range information are required to only be emitted in between begin source file and end source file. This one is virtual. Call back to inform the diagnostic client that processing of a source file is ended. The diagnostic client should assume that any objects made available via begin source file and are inaccessible. Yeah, okay, I'm not doing anything with it. Just print that it is being called. But yeah, definitely this should be called right. I mean, come on. So you should have some end of source file in my output. And I do not. Not even that is being called. This one is virtual. This is an override, override, override. It's the primary, secondary again. Override, front end action can be used to transfer ownership of. Text diagnostic printer, override, override, in between. This again about the diagnostic thing, obviously. Preprocessor, this is the one. Not virtual. Override, don't call end source file if begin source file failed. That's a testing. Let's not look at that. Maybe it's not calling end source file because begin source file is never called. Although two different things, but yeah. Begin source file of the diagnostics object. Oh, compiler instance is calling it. I don't have a compiler instance. There's a rewrite front end actions. Yep. Get diagnostics. A lot of the things are diagnostics again. Precompiled. Yeah. Maybe this one. Hello, Giannesvornazari. Teach you what? Provide diagnostic consumer. Primary client. It's all diagnostic stuff, isn't it? Yeah, hello. Interpreter, what the hell is that? No, no, we have also one in the front end action wrapper. What the hell is that? A front end action which simply wraps some other runtime specific front end action. Derived from this class allows an action to inject custom logic around some existing action behavior. It implements every virtual method in the front end action. Interface by forwarding to the wrapped action. I hate stuff like this. It's no documentation. What is a front-end action? Abstract base class for actions which can be performed by the front end. Okay, nice, but call back before starting processing a single input. Given the opportunity, modify the compiler invocation. I don't have a compiler. Nope. I don't know, man. I'm gonna ignore it, that it exists, I guess. I was calling it myself though, something like begin source file. I'm calling begin source file myself on the diagnostics consumer. Probably because some AI told me. Then do I never get here? Of course I should get here. It doesn't seem to be printing what I expected it to be printing. Or does it? Begin source file is not highlighted. Strange. So even this is never printed, is it? That of course is very weird. It's not printed. I would say that means that we don't get here. Which is, yeah, very weird. So that would mean that begin source file is now printed. It's kind of impossible. Have a call time meant. Well, that should be called at the moment we construct a translation unit, which I'm certain I'm doing. I'm going to put a breakpoint here and see what the hell happens. So I want to run this in the debugger. gdp args $build /break run. Print source file. Okay, that's our file. Next. Where are we now? Till the constructor. Clang front end begin source file. Step. You are now in begin source file. File ID. If not full path is empty. I think it's not empty. File manager get file ref. Assert file entry or R. Get it source file. Create file ID. Now we have a file ID. If the file ID is valid, then put the stuff in a buffer or something. If invalid, nope. Source manager set main file ID. You could say that the moment we set this, it should call that we enter the main file, but no, not really, right? So a step. We're just setting it, so it doesn't do anything. Now I'm here, preprocessor. Okay, we create a preprocessor, and then I call begin source file. This is the line that I'm interested in. Next. Okay, the preprocessor has been constructed. Reset. Are we already in begin source file? I would have expected to step into this, but maybe I was ignoring that. So at the beginning. Yeah, this one I think. So we don't step, it will be skipped when stepping. Okay, so we are now inside. Oh, begin source file. Oh, wait a minute, that's a completely different begin source file than I thought it was. Or, well, actually, no, what? Text diagnostic printer. That's inside the library. Okay, well that explains it. All kinds of functions with the same name, and then I get confused. So I did not write the diagnostic thing. It's just a standard text diagnostic object that is being used, and the call to begin source file is used by, well, to create it, I guess. Hmm. So this diagnostic consumer must be then the text diagnostic printer. Yep, it is. And why did I think that something else was called? Because we have this. It's a diagnostic consumer. Well, then what's the difference between the diagnostic, what was it, and the diagnostic consumer? The diagnostic consumer. What's the difference between the diagnostic consumer and the diagnostic consumer? Aha. Well, one is the clang text diagnostic printer, and the other one is then apparently not used or something. So I did define my own diagnostic consumer here, and then later on didn't use it. Maybe I should try to use it. Only defined when CWD debug is defined. And here it is not. This is for the O-stream operators though. Yeah, okay. Doesn't seem any useful anyway. Basically, it's not doing anything. the diagnostic line, which does not exist. It's a diagnostic consumer building. Or something derived from the diagnostic consumer. Hi, Ion. I'm completely lost again. There should be tutorials for this stuff. Maybe I should look for a tutorial or something. It doesn't exist, but well. I don't know. Let's just continue with the other stuff. But at least I know what to do there. Yeah, I was looking. Okay, we want to get a callback when the declare is encountered. So I was looking at looking for GSPP something. Yeah, this one actually, but then that's apparently where I wanted to look. There's PP callbacks. I did let myself be distracted by the end of main file here. So that's where we were. Intent. Pragma directive. Nope. Okay, get a lot of pragmas again. Macro defined. Yep. Macro undefined. Defined. Who called to when the defined operator has embed, has include. Source range skipped. Oh, that's also an interesting one. The range begins at if-else directive and ends after the end if-else. So if an if-else and if skips part. And this is called. Definitely gonna need that as well. Actually, I have implemented all these virtual functions with an assert. So there should be none, otherwise we would have asserted instead of just finding the error. Yep. it's not there. Damn. No, you don't. Well, at least I just looked at it. Like our expense. Okay, did I miss that one? Oh, screw it. There's no assert in this one. Completely missed this then. So this is being called. Hopefully. And callback, expanding macro, identifier, add that, add again the same thing till column 19. Let's see if that is correct. Yep, and 19 is what? The whole thing. Okay. Yeah, okay. So that's then what we have to implement. So if you compare that with the other macro thing, macro defined, that says if not enabled, then do some testing and then return as well. It tests if the location of that define is indeed not in the main file. Otherwise, enabled should not have been false. But yeah, I don't know yet how or where to get an source location. I do. Range has it. So we're going to the same kind of test. I don't want to skip stuff that should not be skipped, or otherwise we'll run into an error anyway. But maybe you can just copy. Probably almost copy this. Anyways. So I need some kind of location, source location. And then that must be valid, of course, and must refer to a real file. And then be unequal to our current translation unit file. And that location, well, I can just take the beginning of the range. Begin, I don't know, start. Let's have a look how that is defined. Source range. I bet it is something like this thing here. Oh, it's just a struct. I'll just use start then. In fact, then we don't really need log, but well. Via code duplication, let's make a debug function for this. Debug, no, just assert. Assert, debug. I don't even need that. Not. Translation unit contains maybe put it at the end. Because it's debug code and stuff. Keep it public though. Yeah, I call it contains. Maybe that even the debug is not really necessary though, but Yeah, not really necessary. You can just define it always, I think. Probably should be const. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I copied this from Clang and I use capitalized variable names. But again, let's do that. That is no longer the case, of course, for random location. Right. Yeah, how does it work? I print entering and then the arguments. Might as well make this an entering. So not going to work, but that's the idea. So how do we print a macro definition? Bet I did that before. So we can peek at that. No, I just have to jump to this. Oh. No, I'm printing a macro info. Not even here actually. Maybe I'm not printing a macro info. Yeah, I suppose I don't need or want even to expand the macro. Sometimes that might be interesting though. I mean, this is about formatting, so does it matter what the macro means for how we format it? Or can we treat the macro always as an identifier? I think that's every other formatter is doing that. Just pretending that it is some identifier. But let's say I have macros that are just closing brace or an opening brace. In that case, indentation should increase. So that does matter. On the other hand, wherever I'm using that, I do not increment the incrementation actually. The indentation, I mean. So it is a macro and then I continue with the same indentation. Maybe allow, say, a configuration for just if you encounter that macro name, then increment the indentation. There you can choose instead of just always doing it or never doing it. It might depend a little bit on the macro. think I'm gonna treat it for now as an identifier. Or rather, zelf have to print it though, the debug output. But yeah, I'm not super interested, I guess, in printing more than just the name of the macro. Which you can get from the macro info. So let's just call this. Can return a null pointer. Very nice. That would be a serious error if you ask me, but okay. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, okay, so let's get the macro info. Kind of in the same way as I do before. And we might use that to print it, so before as in here, macro info. Exactly the same thing. And I might want to do this as well, right? Because this is just, well, no, this is a define. No, I don't want to do this exactly. Or at all. Okay, let's just copy this. That's what I'm looking for. So capitalize D, I think. Disable macro. Nope. It's more like the def. Yeah, def something. Definition length. Nothing now. This. No, that contains the macro info again, so it's not very useful. They should give me that name, come on. Maybe this identifier info. No, it's params. Parameters. I think I simply not store it. It's not part of the macro. Nope. Well, in that case, I should just use this, because that's what I was looking for. Macro name. Hello. Wake up. But I already printed it. So, yeah. Do I still want to print this thing then? Not really. I'm just gonna print nothing there. The arguments, however, yeah, those are part of the source file, right? These are literally the stuff that is being passed to the macro if it is a function. Macro args. An instance of this class captures information about the formal arguments specified to a function like a macro invocation. Exactly what we need. How do I get all the arguments? Well, it is a vector of tokens. Seriously. Pre-expanded argument tokens. Pre-expanded tokens for arguments that need them. Empty if not yet computed. This includes the end of file marker at the end of the stream. Is that private? Nothing is private here. Oh, it is private. Good. Just scroll down to what we can actually access. Get argument length. Given a pointer to an expanded or unexpanded argument, return the number of tokens, not counting the end of file that make up the argument. Get number of macro arguments. That could be interesting. invoked with variadic argument. This actually has a documentation. Look at this. There's documentation. Wow. I think they should delete this. Let people figure it out. It's only true on this invocation. V, comma, A. It is true if the macro is defined with a variadic parameter and was invoked with at least one token supplied as variadic argument. Interesting that this one is returns false. Now maybe this one, get unexpanded argument. So that would be maybe then whatever you pass yourself. It's an argument and it's not expanded yet. Yeah, I'm gonna guess that one. So we get tokens. Should be able to print tokens. Yeah, I definitely can. So, and the other one was called get num macro arguments. What is talking about source range? It's called range here. Okay, so I want to print, well, let's remove the comma as well. You can just put commas everywhere. You want to print DC continued, comma, and then the argument, the next argument, which is a token. We can do print token. And I get the token from that function. Which it takes, I guess, the I, right? Oops. Unsigned argument, yep. Now, okay, I'll call it, I'm not gonna call it arg, that's arg. I'll call it arg. And this is again a function of the args. And that should do the trick, I think. Yeah, and then we have to finish by printing and closing parentheses for that one. And then the for loop should only be printed, of course, if we have debug turned on. It would still compile, I think. It would just loop over the out being empty. So it probably doesn't do while zero statement with nothing in it. But I think this is more clear, right? Error, no member contains in translation unit. Well, I added it. Well, I added something that is called contains. Contains, yeah. Apparently not the right place. Preprocessor events. Yeah, what the bullshit. Translation unit .h. Now let's move it a little bit up because I made it non-debug function, although, well, Did you mean clang source location? Let's try clang. Do I have my own source location? No, I don't. It's clang. Well, this one, but it's in debug. And we don't have a source manager. We are now inside the translation unit, right? So this should just be well, this, which is this. And the source manager. Yeah, we have this, which is, whoops, okay, let's try to look like that. Now what? No one named start in clang source range. I was looking at the wrong range apparently. It's not a source range, then what is it? It is a source range, like here, totally source range. This source range, not that one. This source range has a start. But there is another source range. And another source range, but it is not a class. No, we need the class. Not this one, not this one, but this one. And then I want to have the get begin, probably, right? Oh, MD is not a pointer. Oh, it's indeed not a pointer. Wait, the last thing I can accept. Never mind. No matching member function. No matching member function for call to print token. Yeah. How annoying. Actually. Oh, that is because it's not inside the out entering. I think I have a debug. Put it in debug or else, right? Oh, no member name print token in instance debug. Then where did I put it? This print token is defined here. Oh, it's defined as a member function of translation unit reference implementation. In other words, translation unit ref, which is the base class of the current object. It should totally work. Let's try this to get a clear error. Oh, this is the problem. There is a candidate function. I'm only looking at the top. There was a candidate function here as well. No known conversion from token const pointer to a non-pointer. You should dereference it. Okay, I'll dereference it. So that was the problem. This thing returns a pointer. Stupid C code. Whatever it is. Oh, right, that was because it can return null. Can it return null? Well, apparently it can return null. Maybe we should not try to print the dereferenced null pointer. Kind of should be undefined behavior, right? Okay, let's not do that then. Actually, I have a print pointer, but that doesn't work together with print token, obviously. Yeah, call it argument token. Argument token pointer. When the hell would this return null? Come on. It's just stupid. Never. So what was I doing then? I just dereference it. This is already done then, okay. Now, what do we have? The same error, what is expected, yes. I want to have, yeah, macro expense is being called, so identifier, the MD. And then, again, an identifier. Oh, okay. Identifier. I should put braces around the arguments, I guess. This is the range. The range goes up till and including column 19. Then we have an identifier in column 11 and in column 16. I mean, so let's have a look at that. This is 11, 14, 19. 19 is the apparently pointing at the last token or at the closing brace. Not sure. Well, yeah. Let's just put a few spaces here. Well, it's just going to point here, I think. And we have one at in column 3. Do we have anything pointing at column 10? I don't think so. So the 3 here. Nope. 11 is the first one. The range now goes till 21. That doesn't work. 21. Yep. Yep, okay, well, we have tokens. It's not talking about a comma itself. Isn't that kind of strange? I guess the only thing that can be in between is a comma. No, that's not true, of course. There could be a macro in between that expands to a comma. Is that true? Can you do that? Maybe not. We put a macro here that expands to a comma. Then does this macro have 1 or 2 arguments? I don't know. Seems that we have to do a lot of decoding ourselves again, as usual. Okay. And here everything is called identifier. Even when it's not. I mean, let's say it's not, like there's no bar. I just have here something difficult. Weird. Because this is the expansion already. Yeah, this is the expansion. Not very interesting for us. So this is still two identifiers for both arguments. The first argument at column 11 and the second one at column 16. No shit. Therefore, I'm going to make it even worse. I'm going to make this x, comma, z, comma, a third one, bar. I'll be so nice to add something here as well. So now there's that one at 11, and then 16, and then 49. So at the moment I get 49, the last one was 16. Yes? So then we get... I don't know how to go to 49. I go 49. So we get 14, this location, and the last one was 16, this location. I guess that I can find the comma then by walking backwards, because, yeah, there should only be a white space here, and then a comma. So we can find this comma, pretty sure. And then I can treat... this cannot be white space, I think, so I can treat this all the way up till the last non-white space before the comma that we found as the argument, and then not treat the white space as argument. So say if we put some white space here, well, let's put some serious white space here. Top. No, I don't have tops here. Let's put an extra... an explicit top here. Top. Wait a minute. What if I put a C comment here with a comma in it? That could be confusing, because then we cannot scan for a comma backwards. I can scan for the C comment, but only forwards. So if we would just scan character by character this way, then I need something that detects C comments backwards as well. So we can go from here to there and then skip the C comment. Ugh. If I would go forwards, then we are at the T, and then the first comma is this. Or well, I can't scan this at all. I can only I have a simple white gap scanner that can detect white space, C++ and C comments, and backslash new line maybe a special case, and a fixed string. So normally I would say I passed. No, I can't. I really have to. We have to re-implement that thing and then search backwards because of this stupid thing. Or even worse, hell, I could do a new line here and add a C++ comment as well. Make it more difficult with a comma in it. See how that looks like. Yep, so now we are line 14, column 16 is the start of an argument, and the end of the argument we don't know. But we do know that the next argument starts at line 17, column 17, column 19. The end of that is then at the end of the whole thing, which is where? Oh, it is here. We have that one. So this is the end of the whole thing. 17, 12. Yeah, that just points to the closing parenthesis. Although that still doesn't give me the end, of course. I mean, this could also be a comment. Followed by a new line, followed by a C++ comment, followed by the closing brace. I bet it's going to point here. And I can't treat all of this as the macro argument, because then I would completely miss that these are comments. So you do need a backward scan. I have to scan backwards here, find and eat all the white space, and eat all the C++ comments. Ouch. So if we encounter a new line, I just have to look for // before the next new line, unless that thing is part of string literal or a C comment. But then, yeah, you would encounter that as well, of course. So I just scan backwards till I find that, or that, or a double quote. Need some extra coding. The only way to find which comma separates the arguments if you scan forwards, you would say, so this is not a comment, so this is the beginning of a string literal that is skipped. Then we get a comma, that's part of the code. And then oh wait a minute, this is nonsense. The rest is a C++ comment. Yeah, but this argument is not the case for the end, to the closing brace, so the closing parenthesis, right? So that doesn't hold for the closing of a function like macro. That signifies the end of the macro invocation, but I still want to detect comments in whitespace separately. How the hell do you write that? Separately from that last argument. In this case, I would have to scan backwards, finding. Again, it's actually the same thing. Haha. Yeah, so finding all white space and comments. Yeah, oh, well, that's not the same thing. Okay, well, the last non-white space non-comment could be a string level. And I want the comma to be part of a C comment. Sorry, I have to do this here. And then start the C comment, comma. No, that was no longer about the comma actually. Optional. Yeah, so here I go backwards. So I find a new line, which means that the rest could be a C++ comment. But I also find the end of a C comment. So at this point it can be a C++ comment or a C comment. Therefore we have to look, it cannot be anything else, I think. No. So I can just skip everything until I find a slash or a star. And the first thing I found is this. So at this point I would say, well, if this was a C++ comment, then this is a C++ comment. So it's not a C comment. But if it was a C comment, then this is just part of the C comment. So it can, at this point, still be, or now it can be a C comment or real code. Now, if it's real code, then we can encounter anything. So I don't know. We have to determine if this was a C++, sorry, a C comment or not. So I'm looking for a star, if there is any. If I do find a star followed by a slash, and not another one of those, then this now says, wait a minute, now if this is the start of a C comment, then that's the end of the C comment. But it's possible that this is not, because there is another C++ comment in front of it. So I guess then at this point we are, I don't know. It seems like at any point there's two possibilities and we just don't know what it is. But if we encounter this, then the possibilities switch. And here the possibilities change again. So now it is real code or a C++ comment. Kind of funny. Here's real code. Here it is, no, sorry. Here it is real code or a C++ comment. Here it is a C++ comment or a C comment. Here it is again code or a C comment. Sorry, not again. That's for the first time. And no, that's not true. Even this can happen in a C++ comment. So it didn't change anything. It can always be a C++ comment at any point, unless we find the beginning of the line. So it can always be a C++ comment. And then here's code. Here it could be also, well, here it's, let's say, I'm going to say this is a C comment, but then I mean it's a C comment or a C++ comment, because it can always be a C++ comment. So here it's code, here it is a C comment, here it is then still a C comment, and then here can also still be a C comment. Now we have three possibilities. There could be a C comment opening in front of it, or there could be a C++ comment opening in front of it, or it could be real code. And if it is real code, then this is a string literal. So that's the difference then. So at this point it can be a C++ comment or a string literal or a C comment. And if then inside the string literal I find something, oh my god. Maybe it does, because it tells me a source location of a token. I'm printing it as a token, am I not? Now I'm confused. Tokens have a length. So it does print, say, it says identifier. Yeah, but I do have a length. Let's print the length as well. I mean, tokens do have a length. How do I get the length of a token? It was called measure, I think. Measure token length. Yes. It's part of the front end. But okay, we can do this. And you need the location of the token, which is printed. Why do I need a location of the token when I can not just measure it when I have the token itself? What is the current class? Processor event handler. That does have a reference to. I need a, what is it? Translation unit, I think I have. Translation unit. translation unit has a clang frontend. Yep, this. And that has the measured token length. So I need to get my token location from the token itself. That is the lock, I guess. Location of a token, yeah. Get location. I can directly get an end location. So I don't need to have it, well, I can still do that, but I saw it has an end location, so yeah. Length of the token spelling in comment could be 0 synthesized tokens. Contains a text value associated with the token. Why not just print that? Get text, just print the text. I'm just going to print the text, I think. Get text in token. Doesn't have it. I just found it. Get text. Namespace comments, damn it. This is the one. Does have a length. Get end. Offset plus in. Yeah, so I can subtract those two. Oh, it's public. You can just access length. Or just. No member named length in clang token. Really? How many tokens are there? Comment token. So that's not it. What is this? Struct token. Oh, namespace dependency directives scan. Yeah, no, of course. I don't believe it anymore. What is this? This is really namespace clang, nothing token. This must be the one. No, let's hope that this thing has a length or something. Token kind, short flags, and that's the end. Dead. Get length. Wait a minute. Get end location as well, as long as it's not an annotation token. We are good to go. So should test on is annotation and call that. Yeah, these things are not annotation. I don't even know what it is. Probably not part of C++. Set flag, get flag, clear flag, get flag, set flags. Start of line has leading space. Is that even possible? Needs cleaning. Take a shower. Has leading empty macro. Lots of stuff. Right. There's length. Nope. Those are way too short length. It's just showing the first token of all of the argument. So it's a token, not a token for the whole argument. Yeah, so I get the location of a token T. The rest is not even mentioned, which is unacceptable. I really want to hear about what the tokens are. Yeah, I'm going to bed, I think, because it's getting too late. There must be a way to run over all these tokens, I think. Replacements tokens, maybe. The problem is that this whole thing is put in the place of the second argument, so of the y. So it's gonna be put here. I think that what we get afterwards is the expansion tokens. Like the x is foo, and then x is concatenated with underscore pointer, and then the replacements tokens begins with foo underscore pointer, which is not what I'm interested in. We are only interested in what happens in the source code itself. See here, so this is not useful, and therefore the rest is also not useful. I mean, where does the star even come from? Isn't T the first thing? T is the first thing, so the star is also part of the macro. Now, you could argue that I get this as well, the spelling location, so I can detect that the spelling location is not inside the macro expansion range. So it goes from line 14 column 3 till line 19 column 9. Therefore, this is not in that range, therefore we skip it. This is in that range, and therefore the T is part of the argument. So I guess I could use this and then add, yeah, it's called text. I would rather have that it is called, everything is called text. That's not useful. No, that's not useful. I suppose that macro arguments just have to be treated like yeah, literal strings. Not string literal, but no formatting takes place. That means if I type as part of a macro argument, this without proper formatting. I'll leave out this space, for example, and normally I want to have a space there. Then my formatter will not add a space, because it just treats this whole thing as, well, whatever you pass to the macro argument as a macro argument. Just too much work to make that work otherwise, I think. And in the end, you don't really know what it is anyway. I mean, in this case, it looks so much like code that it's probably code. But, for example, this foo, yeah, I mean, it's catenated with something, right? So you could do all kinds of stuff with this that makes it... actually, I think that... Isn't it? Well, the parentheses make it, I think, one argument. It's not like the macro takes this as one argument and then that again as an argument. But there are ways to pass commas that macro really treats a comma that is not, you know, maybe you say you have a template type here with angle brackets. It's not decoding it, so it doesn't know it is a template. It could be just a less than. And it's going to treat the commas between template parameters as macro argument separators. It's a big mess, basically. Don't use macros in C++ code. But I have to support it. Yeah, I was going to bed, which means that I'm going to play a game of chess. Let's put Discord back where it belongs. My rating was a tiny little bit over 1900 again at the end of the day. No opponents. Come on. What is this? Quick pairing. It's not very quick. Puzzle of the day then. It's probably very easy because, well, I'm rated like this, but the puzzle is not. Puzzle is for everyone. Reconnecting. Oh, that's why. It's not that late, is it? Is my router resetting? Yeah. I think I lost connection with Lightchess. Well, I can solve it anyway. Give a check. Goes here. Put the queen here. Mate. Is that difficult? Not really, is it? Check. And mate. Yay. Snore. Rating 1750. Ah, ridiculous. Okay, now we get a real puzzle. Traps my rook. So you would think I put the bishop in between. But that traps my queen. Bishop goes back and I'm dead. So let's not do that. Instead, what about just giving check myself, and then if the queen takes it, I sacrifice this rook with check and then take the queen. But then I lose two rooks. Although if they take the, I can take a bishop back. If I remove my bishop, then I have these three squares as well. So this is almost made already. Yeah, it has to be a check, right? Check, 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 check. There's nothing. Go here, take a hook, check. Also nothing. Go here then maybe. Nah. Doesn't look like it just takes my bishop and then I have nothing. Threatens mate. Are we winning after this check? We have 2 pieces and but for a rook. And the pawn 6 against 5. We have a rook and a pawn for 2 pieces. So the material is equal. So if I give check, I lose 3 points. I give check, lose 5 points. I win 9 points. And then that's only 1 point. And then I lose 5 points again. Wait a minute, before taking the queen, I can just give check here, right? That saves this rook. The queen comes in front of it, however. But I can take this bishop first for check. Yeah, this is the first move. It's not the first move. That's what I mean. That was a puzzle rated 2925. Uh-oh. Harder than 1700 something. A mating net here or something. Bishop here. Take rook. Give check. That looks pretty good. But suppose he runs away. Cannot go there. That would be check again anyway. King comes here. Sooner or later. And then I remove my bishop with check. Does it help me in any way? Not really. I don't know. I'm just gonna try it. I'm lazy. It's also not it. Okay. This is one hard puzzle. Rook here, maybe. Also threatens the queen anyway. That is it. Yeah, well, I don't understand. My queen is still trapped, although I can go here. After I can take the queen and then we can go here. And that's it. Yeah, well. I don't understand why, though. Play with computer. Where's my analysis thing? That is the only move. Why on earth? I mean, I saw that it was winning. So the question is more like, why are other moves not winning? For example, this move, -5. Okay, so my plan was to give check here. It doesn't take the rook. Okay, the only thing I calculated was taking the rook. Yes, white is winning. Yay, I wasn't completely stupid. So my idea was then we get this, and then I'm threatening to take the bishop here and to give check. If we would take here, I take both bishops. That is good for me. And what I overlooked was simply that the check is all nice and dandy, but you just gave away a bishop. And now what? Yeah, this is not working. Not working at all. You can give check again and the bishop takes it. Just completely lost. Horribly bad. How the hell did I not see that the king can just come forward? Oh. Yeah. No, stupid. I'm going to bed.